I don't know much, but I know this much. It's been a minute since I've made a video, but there's been so much Chelsea updates that have been happening. I want to tuck right into it in this video. Todd Boehly and the consortium have done their business. We have shipped players out left, right and centre. And it's been quite remarkable the amount of players we've been able to offload. Some players perhaps we wouldn't have liked to see the back of, some we definitely would, and some we are still yet to see the back of. So there's still a lot that is to be determined, but one thing's for sure, that we can finally get a bit of a scope of what this new rebuild, this new Chelsea is going to look like. The new kit has been released today without a sponsor. It's a throwback to the old 90s version, like the shirt I've got next to me here. And I feel like we're starting to get, I don't know about you, I'm starting to get a little bit more excited about things to come after such a traumatic season we endured last year. I feel like now I can start to get that feel-good positivity going. You know, we've got pre-season, Pochettino has started his tenure. There's been some ins, and we're just waiting on that, a few more outs. And I think now is the greatest time to sort of reflect on the outgoings that have happened so far, because that was a key part of the business this transfer window, was getting players out the door. And there's been some controversial ones, that's for sure. I think the ones we definitely need to look at, of course, for me, are the three: Mason Mount, Kai Havertz and Mateo Kovacic. Now, I put all these three together because I feel like these are three players that potentially we didn't really expect to leave. I know Mason Mount was rumoured for a long time. Mateo Kovacic was rumoured towards the tailgate of the season. But I'm pretty sure no one really saw the Kai Havertz move coming. But I'm going to start, of course, with the controversial Mason Mount. One of the fans' favourites, player of the season for the 2 years in a row previous to last season. And he's already made a move and cut his Chelsea career short. It's a sticky one. Man United are in a better position than they have been over the past few years. That's obvious, you know. They are on the ascendancy. They qualify for Champions League. They won a League Cup last year. You know, with the addition of Casemiro, Martinez, Ten Hag has got something brewing at Man United. Do not get me wrong, but I didn't really see the appeal of going to Manchester United, apart from it being the biggest institution in football. I just felt like as a Chelsea player, homegrown, he would have wanted to have stayed put and, you know, definitely give a few more years to Chelsea and play for the team that love him the most. But it's not to be. And I do sympathise with Mason a little bit, because he was playing under a contract that was definitely well below, paying him well below what he's worth. Of course, he was negotiating a new contract for quite a while. He's negotiating it with the Roman Abramovich ownership and then with Todd Boehly. And I think that dip in form for Mason definitely came at the wrong time. I think other players had sort of secured their contracts before that, and Mason hadn't. And I think it was rumoured he wanted 250. Chelsea were offering him 200. He rejected that. So I can see why, in a contractual terms, why Mason is disappointed, why he didn't get the contract that he wanted. But I really felt like there was rumours that there was a contract on the table that was going to last another season. It was going to be a season extension, and I did feel like that at least would tempt Mason to give it another year at Chelsea and to play under Pochettino, who I think was a big fan of Mason Mount and of the Chelsea project, with Mason Mount included. Mixed feelings for sure. But that one for sure is a move that stings. Now, Kai Havertz, what do we make of this one? Kai Havertz, I mean, we invested big on Kai Havertz. Let's be real. The Frank Lampard regime, we invested big. 70 million, 72 million. You know, young talent, didn't hit it off in his first half season, that's for sure. But things definitely got going, and he's always going to be in Chelsea folklore for that goal in Porto. And I feel like he's shown so many glimpses of a quality player. I mean, he has played out of position. We've played him in the false nine under so many managers now. Tuchel liked him there. Graham Potter would play him there occasionally. Frank Lampard on his return would play him there. It was just really weird, and I felt like we were never getting the best out of Kai Havertz. But all that being said, we have had a lot of opportunity to see what Kai offers. He offers tenacity, he offers aggression. He's a very silky footballer, fantastic touch. Not the fastest, not the best finisher. Maybe at Arsenal, where he's going to play, I would imagine, as a proper midfielder, he might shine. And I think that is probably a move that, when it came his way, Arsenal are on the ascendancy. Arsenal have all the momentum at the moment. Chelsea definitely down in the dumps, mudded. That move was one that I'm sure surprised him and surprised Chelsea fans also. So it's a move that I think I can't blame Kai Havertz for. It's still weird to see him, profess his love for Arsenal so soon and all of that, kissing the badge after you have won a Champions League with Chelsea. It is an odd one, but I think that it's a move that we just have to accept. I'm not sure what kind of reception he'll get when he does come back to Stamford Bridge, but I don't imagine it will be as sour as the one Mason Mount gets on his return. Now, 65 million for Kai Havertz, I think most Chelsea fans would have bit your hand off for that. Given what we've seen, given the fact that we do lack goals, Kai Havertz doesn't scream goals, it's probably a transfer we were happy to accept, let's be honest. We move on, wish him all the best, don't wish him too well at Arsenal, but I think that, considering we needed to raise money and we've sold Mason Mount for 55 million, 115, 120 million for those two, that's not bad. Not bad business whatsoever, considering the amount of money we needed to raise to be aligned with FFP. So those two, tricky ones to accept, but I think that we move on and hopefully the players that we do bring in are far more committed to the club, are players that we can get behind, players that will, give us more goals in the absence of Kai Havertz and hopefully will give us the same amount of creativity, if not more, the tenacity that Mason Mount gave us. Now, Mateo Kovacic as the last outgoing that really raised a few eyebrows. He was rumoured towards the tailgate of the season to go to Manchester City. Great in possession, rarely loses the ball, doesn't offer any goals. Again, same issue we got with Kai Havertz, a midfield that doesn't offer any goals. But fantastic player nonetheless. I feel like Kovacic is a gem of a player, but there were games last season where you could tell he had given up, his head was turned, and he wasn't putting in the same sort of performances, and he had looked like he was kind of done with Chelsea. And I think with Kovacic, again, it's a weird one with all three of them, because all three of these players deciding to go to other top six teams, does this tell us anything about what is happening at Chelsea? Does this sort of signify the chaos in the dressing room at Chelsea, the mayhem under the Todd Boehly consortium ownership, that these players that have witnessed the Abramovich ownership and have now endured a year of Todd Boehly and the shenanigans that have surrounded Chelsea over the past 12, 18 months, that enough was enough for them? And if that is so, that is quite telling, because, I think no one doubts that the Roman Abramovich era was, for the most part, ran like clockwork, was a very militant, was a structured hierarchy, and definitely was a well-oiled machine. It was an ownership that ran very well, and it brought us so much success. And now, with what's happening with Boehly and the consortium, if Mason Mount, who has pretty much played in a blue badge, played for Chelsea his whole footballing career, has already decided to jump ship over a year of ownership, of new ownership, it's telling. But I think that also sort of gives the indication as to why Todd Boehly and that consortium have been so ruthless with players and managers and backroom staff and technical directors from the old guard, because maybe they're going to have a bit of biasness towards their initial ownership, towards the way things were done and run initially, and now they're having a hard time adjusting, whereas the new players, they know no different. And I think they're maybe a bit more willing to play ball and to move forward. And some players clearly weren't. So, and backroom staff maybe weren't. Thomas Tuchel, you can also add to that. So it is difficult, but I think now, new manager, new ownership, start of a season fresh, new players, not as many players from the old guard are left now. Big sweeping changes. And I do just wonder what this means moving forward. Hopefully, we can get back to our glory, get back into the top four next season. But these outgoings have been hugely telling. These three in particular, guys, I'm going to make this part one of a three-part series. surrounding, focusing on the outgoings that Chelsea have gotten rid of. And I do think that these three of Mason Mount, Kovacic and Kai Havertz were incredibly telling. And I think that we can sort of break the different outgoings, the different departures from Chelsea into different categories. And I'm going to put this as a, the players that jumped ship, the players that left the sinking ship, as opposed to some of the players that have been sold, some of the long servants at Chelsea that have, perhaps come towards the end of their tenure. I feel like these three definitely, we would say, have jumped ship. Tell me, which departure out of the three do you understand the most, and are you as compassionate and understanding of compared to the least amount? Guys, I know it's been a while, new setup. Going to get back into the swing of things. Going to be releasing a lot more videos over the next coming weeks. Up until the start of the season, there's going to be a lot more content. It's going to be a lot more updates. Chelsea have released a new kit. We got no sponsor. It's a Chelsea thing, I guess. But guys, like the video if you can. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next one.